EDDIE-FICATION with consultant human resource development and training specialist Eddie Frederick is powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited and Tillian Group Country Cold Store.
Co-op Bank introduces e-payments, our new e-banking feature that allows you to make payments online hassle-free. Log in securely with biometric technology. Make recurring payments easier with automated scheduling. Save time by paying your bills online. Transfer money to accounts at other local and regional banks. Send wire transfers on the go to anywhere in the world. Or send money to friends or family using Buddy Payment. E-payments, the swift, simple, and secure way of transferring money. Welcome home.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Tillian Group, underwriters and all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick. With fresh innovation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces, only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all. EDDIE-FICATION with consultant human resource development and training specialist Eddie Frederick is powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited and Tillian Group Country Cold Store.
Co-op Bank introduces e-pay.
Wonderful, folks. And of course, that's enough of all the sponsors there for the time being. So I want to say welcome, as per usual. Tell a friend. Gather your household and let's have some frank talk this evening as usual. I want to say thank you for joining us and continuing to move effortlessly into 2023 and beyond as a wiser person and a more aware person as to how, what, who, when, and where to avoid on your forward, onward, and upward journey. This, of course, is my 105th independent live session and third for 2023. Our topic today is a new consciousness needed if we are to progress as a nation. Good folks, remember to share the live. I've been sharing this with many people for all of my 37, going on 38 years, of course. I've been involved in motivational training and development here in Grenada and over the region. It is better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. And so, when not much may seem to be happening in our midst at any given moment, we need to reset our minds on becoming interested in using our downtime wisely in preparation for, of course, the up times that are surely ahead. In this way, we will become the right fit in our own organization or country among our colleagues and countrymen for the positions that are bound to open up for us. It's just, in other words, things we have to have the confidence that things will not remain the same all the time. Isn't that beautiful? I can assure you that if we do not prepare ourselves, all now, our current capable leaders who are charged with building our nation, an assignment that they are ready for, folks, you will find that other regional nationalities will be taking up many sensitive positions in this country. And we will surely be relegated to the back in our own country. Not because you're Grenadians, it means that you should be given the first preference at any opportunity if you are not prepared with capacity and competence, and of course, know-how. Today is the age of knowledge. Today is the age of know-how. So what do? The man or woman with the knowledge will, of course, be given the opportunity. The days of favors to the incompetent and incapacitated are over. For us to reap any abundant benefits in store for us, while we contribute to our very progress, a new consciousness is needed. We have to first appreciate that we were born to experience greatness and not become slaves to a life of lack and deprivation, as so many have resigned to. The several old expired minds who have been around for eons, whether in or out of politics, and who insist on wanting to remain in the mainstream leadership, let alone things around us, need to be totally sidelined by the several assertive, youthful Grenadians who have started to show up since June 23rd last year. The onus is on you, the constructive, youthful minds, and of course talents, to lead the way in helping to build a better future for all. God damn it. A lot of people my age, a little younger and older, need to realize that if you are not current in your thinking, you are useless and you ought to take a back seat. I shudder to think that our youthful population have to wait for all among you to die before they can be given a chance to unleash and realize their potential. Come on, man. Enough is enough. Some of you wasted your life. You went behind the old nastiness for all of the 23 years. The old nastiness was there making magie popot. And you still want to stick around to do what? To keep back the place? No. Make room. I recently met a young, vibrant, and educated youth, full of passion and enthusiasm for life. And our discussion was centered around associations and relationships. I was shocked to hear this youth say that stupidity in others riles them up, especially among older adults who, by virtue of how long they have been alive, effortlessly display stupidity. You notice I said them because I don't want to sex the person for fear that some of you could identify who this youth might be. That youth went further to state unequivocally that they do not engage anyone who cannot make an effort to be intelligent. It is as a result of this stimulating revelation I shared to my Facebook page a perspective that sought to explain how I have come to operate. Sapiophiles are people who are attracted to the intelligence or creativity in others. If all of us make an effort to become sapiophiles, what a whole lot of intelligent and creative people we would bask among as a nation. In response, Nat Lesia Augustine proffered, quote, "I believe I'm one. The older I get, I am turned on by it, and I have very few friends. I also think when one is self-aware, constantly evolving, open to learning and growing, anything less than that annoys you," unquote. She has captured the essence of who one evolved into, or one would evolve into, when identified as a sapiophile. Isn't that beautiful? Folks, as you grow and you confirm yourself in the true north of who you were born to become, stop feeling badly for outgrowing other people who had the same chance to grow as you and even with you, but refused. It is your duty to yourself to keep moving. Thanks for joining me for some more frank discourse on this important topic here today. A new consciousness needed if we are to progress as a nation. Let's come up for air. Let's take a little blowout here and we'll come right back with some more. Folks, there's a lot I have in store for you.
EDDIE-FICATION with consultant human resource development and training specialist Eddie Frederick is powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited and Tillian Group Country Cold Store.
The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful. And folks, welcome back. But I just want to pay you a little homage and respect here this evening. For those of you who are joining, it's going to be an extended program tonight in any case. Lydia, Samantha, Joseph, welcome. Angel or Angel, Eudine, Yvette, Terry, Maria, Stephen, Sam, Antha, Cynthia. Who else do we have here? Who else? Karen, Andre, Jennifer. Jennifer, my dear, blessings to you, dear. Blessings, nice to have you. Nivea, good to have you, my darling. Good to have you. I know you like, you just have to say this, so you love the way I say nastiness. Well, we have a lot of nastiness to talk about tonight, and you will all hear. We have Joy. We also have, who else? Jillian. Who else on this platform here? Sharon, Doc. Blessings, my dear. Welcome. Alison, Tisha, I see you teaching on Facebook the other day. Bless your heart. And of course, Herman, my old schoolmate. Blessings to you. And on this other platform here, we have, let's get it right. We have Benedict. We have another Jennifer here. Kathleen, Elisa, Mimi, Wendy Ann, Loisy, Cynthia, Renee, Brenda, Lima, Sherian, Imi Kimi, Wahalala, Ermi Kimi, Ermi Kimi, Sherian, Charmaine, who else? Nikisha, Donna, Betty Ann, Elise, Hillary, Glennis, welcome, my dear. David, blessings to you, my friend. Who else do we have here? Anna, good old faithful Anna. Jackie, we have another Jennifer, my old schoolmate and tongue girl. Lovely to have you, my dear. We have an Anne, we have a Renee, Island Gal, Dread, you're so faithful, my dear. Blessings to you. Shadona, we have another Jillian. Who else? John, truly blessed. Silvani, Derek, Naomi, Jada. Who else do we have? Aldith, welcome. Rosalind, Peter, Zilma, Grenada Sunshine, Faith. I don't know if that person is meaning to be a little sarcastic there by calling themselves Faith, but so be it. And Aria, we also have a Jim just joining. Jim, welcome. So folks, we have a lot of onions to fry here tonight, and I tell you, it's going to crescendo. It's going to go up. Roxy, welcome, my dear. I don't know if you're late. Take a chair and stand up in the back of the class. Make sure you stand on the seat. I'll tell you when to come down. So welcome back, folks. Really, folks, I want you to just imagine our nation approaching 50 years since attaining independence from Great Britain. And yet we have quite a number of our nationals, having been poorly led for most of those 50 years, not understanding how further along we ought to have been than we are, if only they had developed a passion and enthusiasm for the right things of life. The gangsters and goons that the majority of Grenadians, through gross omissions, caused the minority to elect time and time again, proving that democracy is really not for us at all, thus allowing these said gangsters and goons to run amok and retard the nation's development in every aspect of the word. Thank God that period is over. And with our young people coming alive to see people their age who are genuinely looking like them in leadership roles, running things, there is hope, for the time of these stale old farts is over. Imagine fellows pushing 70 years by next election, appearing to be entering a dogfight with one pushing 80 to lead this youthful nation when elections come around in 2027. That has got to be puppy show of the highest order. That is why I always admonish our mostly young population. Stay awake and ignore these dinosaurs, especially the old thief among them. Do not fall for any rumple-up-faced, frowsy element with no concept of enough to disguise by dress as if to look young in an attempt to fool you to continue to support him, when in truth and in fact, he has absolutely no constructive plans to take you to any promised land. That is why I continue to urge all of you to remain awake to the benefits that can be derived from the new process that will take a lot more than 5 years to take root, so you can reap the benefits of your awakening. Remember, 13 years of uninterrupted decay, 1995 to 2013, to 2008, sorry, with a 5-year hiatus, a break from 2008 to 2013, and a return with vengeance for a further 11 years and 4 months, 2013 to 2022, to finish the decay they started, have left this nation decimated indeed. You all have to remember that these gangsters and goons were so busy managing their own personal affairs and getting rich that they allowed things to run away to the point where the entire public service resembles the aftermath of a level 10 hurricane site. The work of our Public Service Commission, the PSC, enshrined in our national constitution, just like government, ought to be continuous. And even though serious work was done towards reform of the service, the rules, when the life of that PSC put in place by the Tillman Thomas administration came to an end in 2013, and the gangsters installed their goons to take that entity over, it was all mass time. Could you imagine, since we got independence in 1974, the way the PSC operated was never brought in tandem with our focus, or what should have been our focus as an independent nation? That was a travesty. I believe it's a very senior retired public servant who advanced that we are 23 years into the 21st century and our PSC is still operating on methods of the 1950s. Isn't that sad? That's a travesty. What was the old nastiness doing for all of the years he was in power, so to speak? Because you know it was in power he was, not in office, in power, using state power to see how he could browbeat people into submission, feathering his nest, of course, and the nests of his enablers and beneficiaries. Folks, for things to change in the service and for transformation to take root so that the tide could be turned back on the course of normalcy before the reform of the service can dutifully commence, a lot of misfits at senior positions that they have failed miserably in must be paid off and relieved of their duties. The current administration needs to put aside some money for that, otherwise kiss their transformation agenda goodbye. Steel has to cut steel, otherwise this current administration will be spinning top in mud. We have to remember that in order that the service be as disseminated or decimated, as it is today, decimated, destroyed, that is, which was taken as normal during the reign of nastiness, bricks, serious measures must be taken. The same way people spoke and the talk died down, when all the good and well-meaning public servants were sidelined and sent away by the old nastiness during all of his 23 odd years in power, is the same way people will talk today. And the talk will die down too when all the senior incompetent NNP sympathizers within the service are paid off and sent packing, and in quick order. Having said that though, the long period of being in the wilderness has rendered many among the old guard of the NDC useless. Folks, we are in crisis for useful talent here in Grenada for both private and public sector. It is quite obvious that if the NDC as a party were not able to attract new hope at the leadership level, they would not have stood a chance of unseating the architects of our national decadence. Interestingly, a lot of these same old guard operatives of the NDC, whose party is now in office, you notice I didn't say in power, having been duly elected, are so accustomed to being in opposing mode that some of them insist on giving the new and desirable guard trouble. And when some of them are placed in positions of trust, are messing up big times. Some of them carry with them their egos, which caused their original destruction in the first place, rendering them unattractive to mainstream Grenadians. To get a chance now to flourish. Good? They get a chance now to flourish and are behaving like fools, some of them. My humble submission, folks, to the new order of this present administration, flush them out because they're already useless. Having to deal with the decimation of the rumple-faced, frowsy-looking old nastiness and his dunce cult following is one thing. But having to ward off the pettiness of these other jackasses from within is quite another. Root them up and out. Without any positions, no one will listen to them, as they will have absolutely no relevance. After all, they were given a chance to be a part of a cleanup crew, putting boots on the ground to clean up after the old nastiness and his goons, and yet for all seem to ignore the importance of the assignment. If there are any such elements around, call them out and let's relegate them to oblivion. We also have a few of them with the old stale fart ideas, lurking around and being given assignments to rehash more of the same from the past that made no sense between 2008 and 2013, far less in these modern times. Mr. Prime Minister, some of your inner circle members are making some serious errors of judgment, the results of which can have the effect of forcing our nation's youthful population to live in the past by these old stale farts, outdated guidance. Transformation must be forward-thinking, not old, frowsy thinking from consummate losers. A new consciousness, folks, is needed if we are to progress as a nation. I told you this is going to hurt you, folks. We have some more where that came from. A lot more fire coming up. Who vex? Go and get an iron and press out your rumple face, because I don't care. It doesn't work for all you. I never asked for favors. And you see all those old stupidities that thought I was going to be director of this and chairman of that, and I'm not interested in nothing. Hello? As somebody say, what there, boy, what?
EDDIE-FICATION with consultant human resource development and training specialist Eddie Frederick is powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, Antillian Group, Country Cold Store.
The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com. EDDIE-FICATION.
Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
You know, folks, it's so interesting. 50 years on, and hear the conversation we are having. But 50 years on, hear the conversation the people in Dubai are having. 58 years on, hear the conversation the people in Singapore are having. You see something wrong with us? Something wrong with us, and this is a 90,000 population country. This is a little village. Arima in Trinidad are 33,000 people. Arima has a third of Grenada's population. Jamaica has a village, I can't remember the name, more people living in that village than, a matter of fact, Kingston is 900, nearly 1 million people living in Kingston alone, the capital of Jamaica. You catch where I'm coming from? Folks, we will be spinning top in mud. I tell you, these last government people that just went there, matter of fact, from 95 to now, we should be gathering all who participated in any NNP administration and bring them in the market every Saturday for a public flogging. A public flogging. That's what they should be getting in the market. Nothing else. Just no progress. The mantra of that particular administration was to just pick up any bus conductor that they find, as long as he could win a seat or she could win a seat. And when they finish, they own an airline. Could you imagine that? You can't even conduct good on a bus, but you end up owning an airline when you finish with politics. Well, this is a joke. This has to be Papi Show, folks. But anyhow, welcome back. I remind you that studies show that enthusiastic people get better breaks in life. Wherever they work, they're promoted more often and they matriculate to higher incomes, thus living happier lives. That, mind you, is not a coincidence. Enthusiastic people get up in the morning excited about life because they recognize that every day is a gift. And so they are motivated to pursue and achieve their goals and to succeed. An enthusiastic person wakes up in the morning and says, "Thank you, God, for this new day." Whereas his unenthusiastic counterpart gets up in the morning and says, "What? Oh, God, you mean it's morning already?" And we live in a nation mostly of that kind. A new consciousness towards the end of becoming enthusiastic will yield better personal and professional results. And our nation will surely benefit. Out with the stale old farts who have proved that all they can offer is expired ideas, which were really never relevant and worse yet for today. It is a fact that we are coursing on the residue of the malaise and morass of the period preceding June 23rd, 2022. And so many of our nationals, still lucky to be employed, sit idly by and seeking a raise of pay just because the cost of living has gone up. Many of us are not prepared to tweak our habits and cut the fat out of our lives in order to make ends meet. While employers are forced to become innovative to remain in business and viable at that, many employees continue to allow personal entertainment and socialization to take center stage in their lives, ignoring the need to prioritize and recognize their focus in order to survive. Could you imagine? An international recession looming large on the horizons, according to the World Bank and the IMF. And in the early aftermath of the decimation of the national economy by the old nastiness and his brigands, perceived to be aided and abetted by the silence of our labor movement. And today, with much needed change for a chance to repair and reconstruct Grenada, guess what? An 8% increase in salaries is sought for their members, many of whom are known to be among probably the most unproductive workers on planet Earth. Grenadians, do not sit idly by and with your usual silence give any comfort to this call for this unreasonable amount of increase in these trying times for us all. As I said before and repetitively, We work to maintain our standard of living and quality of life. We do not work to get money to pay bills. The man who throttles weakly and poorly, and when I say weakly, I don't mean W-W-E-K, W-E-A-K-L-Y, weakly, the opposite of strongly, and poorly on a daily basis, usually has a standard of living and quality of life to match his low energy level. And that's a fact. Yet, he's the same man that wants to be in every fete, every foreign artist show, which cost in excess of $100 nowadays. This same Force-aligned man could be seen in VIP and VVIP for in excess of $300 a pop. Such man's rent is late. His car payment is late and has to hide the vehicle from the repo man. Such ill-focused man has to panhandle to get a bus fare to stand on the side of the road, appearing to wait for a bus without a cent in his pocket, hoping someone will pick him up. What such irresponsible adult is not aware of is that he or she is modeling that irresponsible behavior to their children, thus perpetuating this unwanted subculture for our civilization. I have news for a lot of you. The rising cost of living is caused by many things. You'd be surprised to know one of which is low to no productivity. At the end of the day, if our labor pool is too lazy, lacking in capacity and competence, and all we can get out of them is 20 to 25% valuable output, then based on that number, the cost of labor must be too high when compared with what is produced by way of work in return. What does this mean? That 75 to 80% non-productivity is received by employers for salaries paid to employees. Tell me how this could be fair. We have to remember that salaries are an expense, and an unavoidable one at that, which must contribute to the overall expense of any business versus its revenues. Yes, salaries in many places are low, but based on the current low level of, or even no productivity, these same salaries might just be too high after all. So you ought to see the relationship with the cost of living and a salary increase. Don't you agree? Come on, walk with me here. You ought not have Fanta or Mobby pockets, but champagne taste. Laziness, ill discipline, and the miserably high level of dishonesty in the workplace, with people taking jobs they know they cannot do, people showing up late or otherwise, and doing very little in return for the wages, people spending lots of time on their private cell phones during working hours, people entertaining their friends at the expense of the workplace, both in context of time and other resources, are only part of the list that can go on to no end. These all interfere with productivity. No wonder the rate of productivity here in Grenada is probably as low as 20 to 25%. This simply means that the same people who complain about their wages in light of the rising cost of living have a duty and a responsibility to themselves to give an honest day's work for an honest day's wage. Those who are unionized need to be told this by their labor representatives so that they will truly understand the situation, instead of employers being bombarded by the plethora of negative sentiments ventilated in our local print and electronic media on a regular basis. Labor and capital are symbiotic and should find a happy middle ground in which to coexist. Employers themselves need to keep a closer contact with their employees so that, as a matter of course, they can truly understand the correlation between productivity and mutual success, both for the business and the said employee. This is called meaningful employee engagement. Management needs to become innovative while always guided by the close association with the reason why they are in the position of management in the first place. Many of our local managers tend to sit back and without proving their understanding of the focus they ought to maintain, they criticize unions without realizing that the unions are themselves very focused on their terms of reference to their members who happen to be the same employees. Many of these managers are not focused at all. While in conversation with one very recently, he was more concerned about what the union would say and do if he were to take a certain decision, which of course he explained to me. In fact, the decision had no bearing on anything the union should be concerned about. Thank God he spoke with me casually on it. And when I told him he was making the union integral to his leadership of his business, and that he therefore is a problem to the establishment that he manages, the penny dropped. Folks, I am as frank as they come, and I had to drop that penny for him. After all, there is a collective agreement. Familiarize yourself with it and move onward, forward, and upward accordingly. The union is not a shareholder of the business you manage, and therefore has absolutely nothing to do with the vision and the mission of your business. They are there to ensure that fairness is maintained at all times with their members, and that your policies don't infringe on their members' rights. Of course, after some wrangling over my brutal frankness, he was able to see my point of view and concede. The change was communicated to the employees without incidents, in fact, and even welcomed. On another issue, I got to find out about a particular place with direct relations to the state. Just about every member of management is unionized. Well, how the children used to say in our day when we were growing up, I bawl when I hear that. Could you imagine this? Now that is the height of slackness. I had to ask which one of management team is the shop steward. I don't know, but when I was told every one of them is unionized, I could only conclude that even the accountant, the human resource manager, and the general manager are unionized too, because they're part of management. Folks, something is totally wrong with that. And the individuals in those said management positions, listen to me carefully, they are grossly dishonest and lacking in integrity. In the case of this entity, which member of management will be qualified to negotiate with the union on behalf of that particular business entity? A management team that is unionized? I would have thought that management is separate and apart from eligibility for union membership, as they are to exclusively look after the interest of the people's investment and ensure that the employees are properly led to deliver onto the investors. In fact, the HR manager is usually the on-site referee to dispense fairness and ensure that rights are observed and disciplinary procedures are dished out as and when needed. Could you imagine that HR manager being unionized also? Well, that person may as well be the shop steward for the union too. Totally unacceptable. But even the persons holding such position as HR manager has got to be inherently dishonest to acquiesce to something like this. But of course, we all know that before June 23rd, 2022, Old Mass was reigning supreme. Grenada was managed like if it were part of a jumble sale. with the so-called leaders not concerned about things like these, but with their own creativity to get rich quick. We have people in the service with accumulated vacation days in excess of 100, 180, 320 days. Could you again imagine this? I am certain that many, if not all of them, would not be missed if they are to be directed to take all their leave and upon their return sit on some kind of little punishment bench to await their assignment, if at all you could find anything useful for them to do. Of course, by the time they would be qualified to return, the transformation agenda should have taken root, and they may just be in the category of those who should be paid off and sent packing. You have one or two of them who want to work right up to their impending retirement this year and get paid for their accumulated leave in lump sum immediately after. Government or any government entity can't afford that in context of time for the transformation agenda to take root. Send them on all their leave now. And if they return and there is any residue of time left before their retirement date, and you know for a fact they have been incapacitated, incompetent, and just like a lump on a log and they're not worth nothing, pay them off and set them free. Let them go in Happy Hill and join their master up there. You know, I have said this before and I will say it again. For the transformation agenda to take root, a certain few of the qualified but incapacitated and incompetent senior public officers need to be nowhere around the precincts of leadership of any ministry. And any minister who insists on having any of these known incompetents and incapacitated, send he or she home with them too. Having said that though, I must admit to being privy to a scribe, which was actually signed by someone who shall remain nameless. I must admit that when I first received same as a confidential share, I found it necessary to corroborate the contents. I shall only share the essence of the scribe, as I do not wish for anyone to try to, with any zeal, to see if they could make out who may have written that. First of all, it was well written, and in few words, revealed so much. Goodly folks, we all know that the base of the cult is larger than the base of the Congress. As long as the Congress could not have presented a leader to excite the non-voting qualified Grenadian electors, the fence sitters, the not so smart who feel because they must participate in elections, they had to vote for the con man and his cons, the Congress's base would never have been large enough to capsize that nasty habit that Grenadians became accustomed to of voting for this old nastiness and his brigands since 1995. We all therefore have to be careful not to be too irresponsible in how we seek blood from those whom we brand perpetual beneficiaries and enablers of the old nastiness for many years. The proof of the pudding, folks, is in the eating. And several of them were fed up with the old nastiness himself, just as much as we were fed up with him, one way or other. Folks, many of them were suffering under him also. Could you imagine being a beneficiary, and because the nastiness secured a promotion for you that you didn't deserve, one of the conditions was that he must have your contacts. And regardless of how you feel, you have to be available at any old time he feels to reach out to you to ensure that you do his bidding. Could you imagine if you use any thought of empowerment and sign off on anything that he would not have agreed on or agreed to, you had to be told about your mother, you know that word, your mother, your father, and your Holy Ghost, and you had to be effed off in conversation with him, regardless of what time of the morning or night. People grew fed up. And because voting was not by the show of hands, he was voted against by many of them, believe it or not, and is that. Their incompetence and incapacity cannot be ignored. But we need to look at the bigger picture here, that for other justifiable reasons, they too had grown fed up of the old nastiness and the abusive indignity he used to put them through. The new government, led by the capable, young, and ready to succeed Deacon Mitchell, needs to put down its foot with a firm hand. A new consciousness is needed if we are to progress as a nation. Let's take a break here, and we'll come back in soon time.
EDDIE-FICATION with consulting human resource development and training specialist Eddie Frederick is powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, Antillian Group, Country Cold Store.
The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wunderbar.
Eddie
Wonderful, wonderful. Wonderful, folks. We have 2 more segments to go. So, you know, I'm pressed for time. So let's get right into it. You see, it's crescendoing. One of the trending topics on offer is the misinformation regarding the seed payments made to the poor and vulnerable, on whose backs a whole industry was created by the last gang of nastinesses who creamed off the top while they fed crumbs to the drinkers of their stupefying green juice. Everybody knew that an announcement was made late 2021 to early in 2022 for a $150 increase of the seed payment by government to all recipients, with an undertaking that it will be delivered for the year 2022. Interestingly, budgetary provisions were made only for 6 months, to the end of June 2022. Isn't that ironic? Anyone who hazards a guess would be more than correct to say that those cons knew it was an election year and that they had no intention, absolutely no intention, to continue it beyond the 6-month period, as they knew when the election was going to be late June. In fact, just aside here, the election was originally carded for Monday, June 20th. But because the main opposition got wind of it, and it was obvious that they knew when it was going to be, the actual 27th anniversary since coming to office on 20th June 1995, the date was changed to Thursday, 23rd June, a date they came to regret. After that election date, the one for the road the old nastiness thought he would have gotten, that 150 increase would have been no more. Trust me. No one could convince me otherwise. And that was all part of the election gimmickry of that old con that the cult following refused time and time again to see through. The new administration, headed by the decent Mitchell, through his goodness, thought in good conscience, the government must make fresh budgetary allocation to continue the increased payment to all recipients for the other 6 months to the end of 2022, because government is continuous. What other explanation among you need for this? With all the irrefutable evidence of bubble and corruption which continue to turn up from the last dispensation, the resistance of the several NNP goons within the service, the public service, the large-scale incompetence of many incapacitated and grossly incompetent senior public servants, not to mention having to navigate through stormy and tempestuous times in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, while having to make preparation for an impending international recession, as warned of by the World Bank and the IMF. The ball was dropped in respect of either announcing the continuation or discontinuation of the additional 150 per month. This good Mitchell, who has absolutely no intention of turning any member of this almost 50-year independent nation into perpetual or further perpetual beggars and dependents, is actually being crucified by simpletons, aided and abetted by the architect of national poverty and duncerization. This is a public assistance program, folks. Yet for all you would think, based on how some are behaving, it is earned pension that they have a right to. Anybody who's reported to refuse to receive the original $300 in the absence of the additional $150 in question should be disqualified from receiving any money at all going forward, since they are advancing through such refusal that they do not need it. Things cannot be as hard as the nastiness is saying it is for the so-called people who are reported to be dependent on the seed payment, if you're going to have people dependent on this payment refusing it without the facts. Folks, what's going on here? We live in a nation of retardation. What is going on here? NNP people say things hard in the economy, but good for NDC government because the Susu man printing money. Things used to be good for the NNP supporters for all of the period preceding 23rd June 2023. And hard for all marginalized NDC supporters. All you forget? Oh, ye of short memory. It's so interesting to note that when all the nation's taxes were being gathered from all and sundry, and benefits of its proceeds were thrown and spent in the direction of only NNP supporters, that was okay. Well, things have changed. And it is important that all the past recipients of the eater food period must know that the time has come for others to share in the pie. What I can say is that this is the true beginning of the transformation promised. The only difference between this transformation and the vicarious nonsense that was on offer by the nastiness and his goons is that all will be empowered and not just some. I pray and trust that this is the last time I find it necessary to say this eat a food is over. Grenada has been raped repeatedly for too long, while many people aided and abetted this violation of her sanctity. It's time to settle down to a new way of doing things without any hint of further contributing to a further pauperization and dancerization of this nation. The spirit of entitlement has got to go and replaced by what? A new consciousness if we are to progress as a nation. Another issue on the cards, and hotly discussed at that, is the active manner in which Mrs. Delma Thomas, the duly elected representative for St. Andrew Northeast. Please forgive me if I get it wrong, but don't crucify me. I believe it's St. Andrew Northeast. And one of the 3 successful elected females in the big parish. Folks, the other 2 being Miss Kate Lewis and Emmeline Pay. Immediately after the defeat of their party at the polls, we heard how the other 2 behaved in true Virago style, with one of them saying, anything for my constituency had to pass through me. You remember that? While the other one was looking for immediacy in the delivery of promises of the new administration, looking quite disheveled and demented while saying so. You all remember that? Interestingly, Mrs. Delma Thomas was nowhere to be seen in this Virago championship display. The first time we got a chance to hear her and witness her on display in a post-election context was during the budget debate in our parliament, when she exhibited poise and state's ladyship none of her other colleague opposition members could match or have matched to date. She took on a conciliatory tone, as against the bickering we witnessed firsthand from the stale old fart and the rest of his brigands. It's only recently, with the last 5 or so years, I got to discover who Mrs. Thomas was married to. And I can tell you folks, based on all my direct dealings with her husband, from the level of sergeant of police to inspector of police attached to the traffic department of the Royal Grenada Police Force, I can attest to his decency and uprightness. It was then I was forced to take a step back to analyze and process. But wait now, Mrs. Thomas could not be a bad person to be married to this decent man. There must be some complementarity between them. Trust me, I started to view her differently and concluded that her only fault was to join this group of mostly brigands posing as government, led by the biggest con in the history of leadership in Grenada. I was therefore not surprised that she has asserted herself, and rightly so, to develop a mutually beneficial relationship with the existing administration in her quest to bring effective representation to her constituents. Who would have thought that of all the people around the inner circle of the NNP, and the old nastiness, I dare say, that Mrs. Delma Thomas would have been the one to defy this wounded leader in a manner that would win national favor and not disrepute. This is the first time in the history of the Grenadian politics that we are witnessing an elected opposition politician being respected and included in the affairs of elective representation to the benefit of the constituents in the entire constituency, Wow. And it took Mrs. Delma Thomas to do that. Constituents of St. Andrew Northeast, y'all are in for some serious benefits because you have a cooperating elected representative, even though she's on the side of the nastiness. Mrs. Delma Thomas takes the prize for the smartest NNP politician to have ever served Grandpa Keith. From the time he had jacked the party from blaze to the present, with all its wranglings, at a time when the majority of the party in a circle would like to see the back of this nastiness. But you see, people who know her would tell you that many of the things he says and the way he behaves generally towards people who did not support him, she was never in support of, even though she kept her counsel. The tiger no longer has any teeth. And so with nothing to dangle before her, as if to threaten to withhold from her, she is showing him that she is her own person now, duly elected by the people of her constituency, and that she will use her prerogative to associate and collaborate with whomever she sees fit to give effective representation to all her constituents. She put all the rest of those goons and gangsters to shame. Us conscious Canadians need to pedestalize Mrs. Delma Thomas as a patriot, as the patriot she is. By her actions, she has shown us who her other elected colleagues are. And how do young people say? Nothing. You see, if meaningful transformation were to truly take root, folks, in Grenada, a new consciousness is needed if we are to progress as a nation. Woo! Let's come up for air, and then we come for the last segment. I told you to be overextended tonight.
EDDIE-FICATION with consultant human resource department training specialist Eddie Frederick is powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited and Tillian Group Country Cold Store.
The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and or affiliates of this program.
Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wunderbar. So, folks, we have the last and final segment here coming up. So, welcome back. For those of you just joining, thank you. As I close here today, folks, I want to throw the spotlight on decadence and its attendant disadvantage to society at large. In Grenada today, we have a lot of poverty, which did not start. A lot of you that run in live and talking a set of crap, as if, well, poverty is something you just discover. Go in Happy Hill, you will find out that in that constituency there, St. George, Northwest. That constituency is known to have the largest number of pit latrine in the whole of the parish of St. George. What does that say? Who was the representative or has been the representative for a generation and more? The same nastiness that all you like. The architect of pauperization and duncerization of this country. So those of you who coming to talk about, oh, my heart goes out, this government don't have a heart, and I said, a crap. Current should go in all you're doing all your life because you're just talking a bundle of crap. The architect of this is you're living through the consequences now. But poverty was invented as an industry so that they could creatively siphon the treasury's money to be able to give the people crumbs. You almost go deep and stop all this kind of, you know, how you call it, this simpleton approach to running lives. We have a lot of poverty which did not start on the 23rd of June 2022. It started from the time we gave a group led by our old nastiness a free hand to run amok while posing as leader for close to 30 years. By this very repetitive, vicarious decision of many, they chose to be poor. They made a choice to be poor because they like to be led by that old nastiness that had no plans to lift them out of poverty. Folks, regardless of whether you were conscious of your decision or not, by supporting that, you made a decision to be poor. Some people, again, were prone to making poor choices because of their insufficiency in the department of sense. Good old common sense, that is. In so doing, they're able to convince others that common sense is really a flower that doesn't grow and blossom in everyone's garden. Many people argue that it is in the politicians' interest, folks, to keep people in poverty so that they become totally dependent on them for handouts, and in their ignorance continue to think of them as gods, which of course they are not, far from. Devils, yes, or nothing, as the young people say. The debilitating effects of poor management, poor leadership over the period 1995 to 2022 for the most part has dealt a telling blow to the progress of our nation. With one administration occupying the seat of power for almost half of our life as an independent state, with little to nothing to show for it. Folks, even except for SGU, a product of Eric Gary's visionary leadership. And the Maurice Bishop International Airport, MBIA, of the revolutionary era, and the now limping National Insurance Scheme, NIS, ripped by the visionless old-timer we just got rid of. What does that administration that lasted the longest have to show? These three entities mentioned, which were serious legacy statements of both Sir Eric and the PRG, are large contributors to our national economy today. While the stadia, athletic, soccer, and cricket, three, are like albatrosses, and the cruise sport still being paid for by seasonal income from our cruise tourism. We don't even know if all the people alive today in Grenada will live long enough to see us pay for that cruise sport. This little decrepit economy, run without vision over the last almost 30 years, require lots of transformation in order to bring it back to sobriety in context of a realistic way of functioning. The bills from the eater food culture and the eater food era are starting to come in. and they are proving to be insurmountable. The freeness has got to stop. And that is why anyone, any parasite in the making, lurking around the precincts of this current administration, must be called out and publicly shamed. We should not tolerate no eater food culture in this country again. We need to call it out. Our people must be put to work, and circumstances have got to be created on the ground to spur that urge to get our people's minds wired to work, as against sitting back, relaxing, and awaiting a handout from a broke government at the expense of the tax-paying public, the overtaxed public. How are we going to build and develop our health, our agriculture, our education sectors through meaningful investments if all we do is take our scarce resources and pelt at people just for votes? The days for transactional politics are over. For those days we are seeing today, they come at too high a cost. The days of so-called plenty, which many Grenadians participated in when the astronomical national debt was amassed, are over, and the bill is now coming in. We need to stop digging our heels in with old talk and if I didn't know nonsense, and change our attitudes and service the bill. The same thinking of freeloading that got us into the terrible state in which we were ably led by the old fart and his goons will surely not be the same thinking that will get us out. You know, every time I talk, as forthcoming as I do, I marvel that we have so-called religious people, pastors, priests, they never would address these issues, just ambling through under the pretext that they must not get involved in politics, while they're seeing the nastiness and his crew taking everybody to hell in a handbasket and not a word. Look, they just fret me because you and I know they're not true. They are just part of what is called, according to Professor Lumumba, the Jesus industry. All they're studying is to make a money for themselves. In fact, the old corrupt and vindictive Mitchell is no longer at the helm. And the good Mitchell is at the controls today. Therein, therefore, lies reason for much needed change in how we do things and respond to his deliberate and firm leadership with love, miles apart from the hostile and demonic tendencies of his predecessor. Folks, too few of us pay attention and mind our own business here in Grenada, resulting in too few of us being able to breathe after our own fashion. If only our people would learn to focus on the things that are important to us all and leave all the unimportant stuff alone, our nation would have been further along. What a pity that is not to be, as our people continue to show us who they are through their inability to prioritize properly. People don't even realize that their priorities show you their character. Right now, FET is right up there with oxygen. And we don't care if we have to beg, borrow, or thief, as long as we can find the money to be in the FET. That's all that matters. On the casual side, other people's business takes, oh God, the spotlight as a priority for so many of our people. It's a crying shame. But when you live in a society where dunceness is the order of the day, it ought to be no surprise when so many among us dive into the recesses of the drain as often as so many of them do. My advice to the several Grenadians who have become aloof, that you no longer care about the goings-on around you, is to stay focused on both your personal and career goals. If you're already retired, continue to work on your personal goals. Feeding same with the retirement funds. You now have to live out the rest of your lives more comfortably with, in the case of course, the retired public servants. This you will do regardless of the reactions of anyone around you. To the strong-willed, who are a few and growing in numbers, I dare say, I'm encouraged. Folks, never water down yourself just because the many duns among us can't handle you at full 100 proof. I am sure you will appreciate, like me, the older you get, the more you ought to understand that it is okay to live your life that those others will never understand. Isn't that beautiful? Many of us would have to be tempted to remain stuck on the page of life's book, worrying about all the various things we could not change, until, alas, when the day comes and we realize turning the page is the best feeling in the world. Our thoughts about our various situations have been the primary cause of our unhappiness. I can tell you from my personal experience that when I started to love myself enough to call up the courage to remove my life, move my life from the several things and people, is amazing, that were not in alignment with my higher version of myself. Doors started opening up that could not shut. Folks, sometimes you have to investigate the people around you and you have to do some house cleaning. I advise you confidently to get in alignment with your higher self, and you will see the difference. You first will have to shed some of the dead weights that you have around you. They come disguised as friends and associates. Life was meant for us to be in service to each other, not to be of disservice to our very mankind and civilization in general, while we get ahead personally. I pray and trust that sooner rather than later, you would realize that the loads and the loads of darkness you are putting yourself through by living a less than meaningful life on account of your inherent ignorance, you can become something really beautiful if you only could reach to the point of consciousness to say, I have had it. The way I live now is not doing any good for me. I need to change my life and make that turnaround. That is what you should say in committing yourself to change and transformation. The butterfly was once a caterpillar, an ode to the process one had to endure before the beautiful outcome. During that process of change, we have to admit that the temptation to remain as we were will always present itself, but we must not give in. An arrow can only be shot by pulling it backward. So when life appears to be dragging you back with difficulties and challenges, it simply means that it is going to launch you forward into something great. Folks, when the God that many of us like to say that we believe in and worship made man, he created him simple, but we ourselves choose to complicate our very lives. A man once told Buddha, I want happiness. Buddha simply responded to him by saying, first, remove the I. That represents ego. Then remove want. That represents desire. And what are you left with? Happiness. Life has so many facets to it, folks. Yet for all, so many of us in this small population remain stuck in the miseries of the subculture. When we no longer have the energy for meaningless friendships, forced interactions, or even unnecessary conversations, we will surely vibrate on a different frequency, and there would be no reason for us to waste our time forcing a line. We would rather have no one and wait for substance than to not feel someone and fake the fun. Too many of us fake relationships and go about not having real and genuine friendships in our small society, which in return reaps for us the kind of lifestyle that we are living, which for the most part is without substance. Folks, what does all of this here this evening tell you? A new consciousness is needed if we are to progress as a nation. We cannot, there could never be a chance of us progressing if we do not acquire a new consciousness. Folks, this is all from me here this evening. I'm in, I'm out, and I'm gone. See you next week, God willing, for regular programming. Until then, stay safe, stay well, remain lifted. I want to thank all of you for coming into the room this evening and being such a great sport. You really have contributed well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So peace and blessings and all the very best.
EDDIE-FICATION with consultant human resource development and training specialist Eddie Frederick is powered by Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited and Tillian Group Country Cold Store.
Co-op Bank introduces e-payments, our new e-banking feature that allows you to make payments online hassle-free. Log in securely with biometric technology. Make recurring payments easier with automated scheduling. Save time by paying your bills online. Transfer money to accounts at other local and regional banks. Send wire transfers on the go to anywhere in the world. Or send money to friends or family using Buddy Payment. E-payments, the swift, simple, and secure way of transferring money. Welcome home.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Tillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
EDDIE-FICATION with consulting human resource development.